Every day, the fat director came to the station to catch his train. "Hello," he always said to Thomas. "Remember, don't be impatient, Thomas. You can never be as strong and fast as Gordon, but you can be a really useful engine. Don't let the silly trucks tease you." There were lots of trucks, and Thomas worked very hard pushing and pulling them into place. There also happens to be a small coach and two strange things his driver called cranes. "That's the breakdown train," he told Thomas. "The cranes are for lifting heavy things like engines and coaches and trucks." One day, Thomas was in the yard. Suddenly, he heard an engine whistling. "Help! Help!" A goods train came rushing through much too fast. The engine was James, and he was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire. "They're pushing me! They're pushing me!" he panted. On, laughed the truck, still whistling. Poor James disappeared. "I'd like to teach those trucks a lesson," said Thomas the Tank Engine. Soon came the alarm. "James is off the line! The breakdown train! Quickly!" Thomas was coupled on, and off they went. Thomas worked his hardest. "Hurry! Hurry! Hurry!" he puffed. He wasn't pretending to be like Gordon. He really meant it. Oh, bother those trucks and their tricks. I just hope poor James isn't hurt. Meanwhile, James's driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It wasn't your fault. It was those damn wooden brakes they gave you. We always said they were no good." Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside, and then he pulled the unhurt trucks out of the way. Oh dear, they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas. He was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all afternoon. "This is most certainly going to teach you a lesson indeed," he told the trucks. They left the broken trucks, and then, with two cranes, they put James back on the rails. James attempted to move, but clearly he can't. So Thomas just simply helped him back to the shed. The fat director was waiting very anxiously for them. "Well, Judge Thomas," he said, "I heard all about it, and I'm very pleased with you. You're a really useful engine. James shall have some proper brakes, a slight rebuild, and a new coat of paint. And you, Thomas, due to your heroism, I shall have to award you your very own branch line." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Thomas. Now Thomas is as happy as he can be. He now has a branch line and two coaches named Annie and Clarabelle. He puffs proudly backwards and forwards with them all day. He is never lonely, though. Edward and Henry would stop quite often and tell him the news. Gordon was always in a hurry, though, but he never forgets to whistle. And Thomas would also say whistle in return. Good for him. Good for him. James was enjoying his new lease on life on the island of Sodor, but he still had a lot to learn. "You're a special mixed traffic engine," said the fat director. "You can pull coaches or trucks quite easily, but you must learn by your mistakes." James knew what the fat director meant. He could well remember that dreadful accident on his very first day. "Be careful with the coaches, James," said Edward. "They do not like being bumped." Everyone came to admire James, I am a really splendid engine, he thought, and suddenly let off steam. A shower of water fell on the fat director's nice new top hat. Just then the guard blew his whistle, and James thought they had better go. Go on, he puffed to Edward. Don't push, replied Edward. The coaches were actually grumbling too. Don't go so fast, eh? Don't go so fast, eh? James wouldn't listen. When at last they stopped at the next station, 2 coaches were far beyond the platform. They had to go back and let the passengers out. No one seemed to know about the fat director's top hat, so James felt happier. Presently, they came to the station where Thomas was waiting with his 2 coaches. Hello, James, said Thomas. Feeling better? That's right. Oh, that's my guard's whistle. I must go. I don't know what the fat director would do without me to run this branch line. And he puffed away importantly. Edward and James passed the field where James had his infamous accident. The cows were back frolicking again, and they ended their journey, safe and sound, before setting off for home. James was very concerned what the fat director would have to say about his top hat, though the next morning the fat director had spoken severely to him. What in the world is going on with you, James? How dare you ruin my hat? If you can't behave, I shall take away your red coat and have you painted blue. James was absolutely livid. He was very rough with the grumbling coaches as he brought them to the platform. Don't talk! Come on! He called to them. Gordon never has to fetch his own damn coaches, he thought to himself. And he's only painted blue! To make James even more cross, this time no one came near him. Oh, I'll show them, he thought. They think Gordon is the only engine who can pull coaches canonically. Hurry, 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 panted James. Oh, you're going too fast, replied the coaches. James laughed and tried to go faster, but the coaches wouldn't let him. Okay, that's it. We're going to stop. The coaches put on their brakes and James stopped. What the hell? James asked his driver. The brakes are hard on. Leak in the pipe, most likely. You banged the coaches enough to make a leak in anything. Well, how shall we mend it? Asked the guard. We'll do it with a newspaper and a leather bootlace, replied the driver. Well, where is the bootlace coming from? Asked the guard. Well, I don't know. Just ask the passengers, said the driver. Hey, you have any bootlace, I see, sir? Please give it to me. No, I'm not going to, said the man. Well, we'll just have to stay where it is. The passengers were absolutely livid. The man reluctantly handed over the bootlace, and then the brake pipe was mended. And James was able to pull the train. But he was a sadder and wiser James, and took care never to bump coaches again. Well, at least I hope he doesn't, a little skank. James had not seen the fat director for several days, or weeks, months. I don't know. He was just left alone for being naughty and was not even allowed to do the most basic of things. Oh dear, he thought, I shall have to stay in the shed for always, and no one will see my red coat again. All because I went so fast. I made a hole in one of my coaches that had to be mended with, of all things, a passenger's bootlace. At last, the fat director finally arrived. I see that you are sorry, James, he said. I hope now you'll be a better engine. You've given me a lot of trouble. People are fat-shaming me on Twitter, and I do not like that at all. I'm very sorry, sir, said James. I will try hard to behave. That's a good engine, said the fat director. I just want you to pull some trucks for me, that's all. James was delighted and puffed away. Oh, here are your trucks, James. Thomas, have you got some bootlaces ready? Oh! We want a proper engine, not a red monster. James took no notice and started as soon as the guard was ready. Come along, he puffed. No, we won't, screamed the trucks. But James didn't give a shit. He pulled the screeching truck sternly out of the station. The trucks tried hard to make him give up, but he still kept on. Sometimes their brakes would slip on, and sometimes their axles would run out, and each time the trouble had to be put right, and each time James would start again, determined not to let them beat him. Give up! You cannot pull us! You can't! Called the trucks. I can and I will, puffed James, and slowly but surely he pulled them along the line. At last, they saw Gordon's Hill. Oh, look out for trouble, James, warned his driver. We'll go fast, and get 'em up before they know it. Don't let them stop you. So James went faster, and soon they were halfway up. I'm doing it! Will the top never come? And then, with a sudden jerk, it all came easier. I've done it! He puffed. Hurrah! It's easy now! But his driver shut off steam. Oh, god damn it! They done it again! We left our tail behind! Look! The last trucks were running backwards down the hill. The coupling had snapped. But the guards stopped the trucks and got out to warn approaching engines. That's why it was easy, said James, as he backed the other trucks carefully down. What silly things trucks are! There might have been an accident. Shall I help you, James? No, thank you, answered James. I'll pull myself. Good. Don't let them beat you. You're doing well, whistled Edward as James slowly struggled up the hill again. I can do it! He puffed. He pulled and puffed as hard as he ever could. Oh, I can do it! Oh my god! I've done it! Oh my god! He panted. Good boy! They reached the end of the route safely, and James was resting in the yard when Edward pulled up a few moments later. Beep, beep, he whistled. Then James saw the fat director. Oh dear, what will he say? He asked himself. But the fat director was very pleased with James. I was in Edward's train and I saw everything, he said. You made the most troublesome trucks on the line be more obedient. Well done! After that precarious stunt, I believe you rightfully deserve to keep your red coat after all. One night, Henry and Gordon were alone with James. Although the fat director was beginning to think well of him, whenever a chance came, the other engines would talk of nothing but bootlaces. Remember the time one had to be used to get you out of the trouble, James, they would tease. James tried to get his own back, talking about engines who got shut up in tunnels or stuck on hills, but they wouldn't listen. You talk too much, little James, said Gordon. A fine, strong engine like me has something to talk about. I'm the only engine who can pull the express canonically. When I'm not there, they need two engines. Think of that! I've pulled expresses for years, and I've never once lost my way. I seem to know the right line by instinct. Every wise engine knows, of course, that the signalman works the points to make engines run on the right lines. Gordon was so proud he had forgotten. Wake up, James, said Gordon next morning. It's nearly time for the express. What are you doing? Odd jobs. Oh, well, we'll have to begin somewhere, don't we? Run along now and get my coaches. Don't be late. James went to get Gordon's coaches. They were all shining with lovely new paint. He was careful not to bump into them, and he followed them smoothly into the station, singing happily, We're going away. I wish I were going with you, James. I should love to pull the express and go flying along the line. Gordon, with much noise and blowing off steam, got ready to back onto the train. The fat director was on the train with other very important people, and as soon as they heard the guard's whistle, Gordon started. Look at me now, we puffed, and the coaches glared after him. Goodbye, little James, I shall see you tomorrow. James watched the train disappear and then returned to work. He pushed some trucks into their proper sidings and went to fetch the coaches for another train. James had just brought the coaches to the platform when he heard a mournful noise. There was Gordon, trying to slide into the station without being noticed. Hello, Gordon. Is it tomorrow? Asked James. Gordon didn't answer. He just let off steam feebly. Did you lose your way, Gordon? Said James. No, it was lost for me. I was switched off the main line onto the loop. I had to go all around and back again. Perhaps it was instinct, said James. Meanwhile, all the passengers hurried to the booking office. We want our goddamn money back, they shouted. But the fat director climbed on a trolley and blew the guard's whistle so loudly that they all stopped to look at him. And then he promised them a new train at once. Gordon cannot do it, he said. Will you pull it for us, James? Yes, sir, I'll try. So James was coupled on and everyone got in. Do your best, James, said the fat director. Come along, puffed James. You're pulling us so well, sang the coaches. Bridges and stations flashed by. The passengers cheered, and they soon reached the station at the end of the route, canonically. Everyone said thanks to James, and the fat director was very pleased. Well, John, he said, would you like to pull the express on occasion? Yes, please, answered James. The next day, when James came by, Gordon was pushing trucks. I like some quiet work for a change, he said. I'm teaching these trucks manners. You did well with those coaches, I hear. Good, we'll show them. And he gave his trucks a bump. James and Gordon are now good friends. James sometimes takes the express to give Gordon a rest. Gordon never talks about bootlaces, and they are both quite agreed on the subject of trucks. Thomas the Tank Engine is very proud of his branch line. He thinks it's the most important part of the whole railway. His two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, agree with him. They are both old and need new paint, but Thomas loves them very much. In a good way. Annie can just simply take passengers. However, Clarabelle cannot just take passengers. She can also carry the luggage, and most importantly, the guard. As they ran backwards and forwards along the line, they sing songs to each other. When Thomas starts from the station, he sings, "Oh, come along, we're rather late. Oh, come along, we're rather late." And the coaches would sing, "We're coming along, we're coming along." They don't mind what Thomas says to them, because they know he's trying to please the fat director, and to know that if Thomas says cross, he's not cross with them. One day, they had to wait for Henry's train, which made Thomas very cross. How can I run my line properly if Henry's always late? He doesn't realize that the fat director depends on me to be useful and stuff. Thomas whistled impatiently. He really wanted to leave, but he had to wait for Henry's passengers. At last, after what felt like a few minutes or hours, Henry came to the station. "Now, where the hell have you been, lazy bones?" asked Thomas. "Oh dear, my system's out of order. No one understands my case. You don't know what I suffer," moaned Henry. "Rubbish," said Thomas. "You're too fat. You need exercise." The guard blew his whistle, and Thomas started so quickly that he left him behind. The guard waved his red flag to stop Thomas, but he was well on his way, steaming out of the station. Oh, come along, puffed Thomas, but Clarabelle didn't want to follow. I've lost my nice guard, she sobbed. Annie tried to tell Thomas what had happened. We haven't a guard, but he was hurrying and wouldn't listen. Annie and Clarabelle tried to put on their brakes, but they couldn't, because there's no guard. Duh. Where is our guard? They cried. But Thomas didn't stop till they came to a signal. God damn it! Bother that signal, said Thomas. What's the matter? Oh, I don't know, said his driver. The guard will tell us in a minute. They waited and waited, but the guard didn't come. Beep, 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 beep. Where the hell is the guard? Whistled Thomas. We've left them behind, sobbed Annie and Clarabelle together. Everyone looked, and there was the guard running as fast as he could along the line, with his flags in one hand and his whistle on the other. He was very hot and was sweating profusely, so he drank a glass of milk, and then told them all about it. I'm very sorry, Mr. Guard, said Thomas. It wasn't your fault, Thomas. We all make mistakes, replied the guard. Look, the signal's down. We can go. Let's make up for lost time. Annie and Clarabelle were so pleased to have their guard again. And then they sang, as fast as you like, to Thomas all the way. They reached the end of the line quicker than ever before. He would reach the top station in record time, making some last-second footage for the opening title sequence. Good boy. When Thomas puffed across his branch line, he always looked forward to something special. The sight of the river. As he rumbled over the bridge, he would see people fishing. Thomas often wanted to stay and watch people fish, but his driver said, no. What would the fat director say if we were late? Every time he met another engine, he would say, I want to fish. But they all had the same answer. Engines don't go fishing. Silly stick in the mud, thought Thomas. One day he stopped as usual to take in water at the station by the river. Out of order? Unacceptable, said Thomas. I am thirsty. Never mind, said his driver. We'll get some water from the river. They found a bucket and some rope and went to the bridge. And then the driver let the bucket down the water. The bucket was old and had quite a few holes, so they had to fill it, pull it up, and empty it into Thomas's tank for many times over, for God knows how long it would take. Okay, that's good, puffed Thomas. And Annie and Clarabelle ran halfway behind. Suddenly, Thomas began to feel a pain in his boiler. Steam began to hiss with his safety valve in an alarming way. Oh my goodness me! There is too much steam, said his driver. Oh dear! I'm going to burst! They damped down his fire and struggled on. I've got such a pain, Thomas hissed. They stopped just outside the top station with Thomas wearing Percy's mask, uncoupled Annie and Clarabelle, and ran Thomas, who was still hissing fit to burst, on a siding, out of the way. Seems to be the right thing to do, but, oh well. I guess. And then, while the guard telephoned for an engine inspector, the driver found notices in large letters, which he hung on to Thomas in front and behind. Danger. Keep away. Soon the inspector and the fat director arrived. Cheer up, Thomas, they said. We'll soon put you right. The driver told them what had happened. So, the feed pipe is blocked, eh? Said the inspector. I'll just look in the tanks. He climbed up and peered in. Oh, excuse me, sir. Please look in the tank and tell me what you see. Certainly, Inspector, replied the fat director. He clambered up, looked in, and nearly fell off in surprise. Inspector, he whispered, can you see fish? Gracious goodness me! How did the fish get there, driver? We must have fished them from the river with our bucket, replied Thomas's driver. Well, Thomas, so you and your driver have been fishing, eh? Fish don't shoot you. We must get them out. They all took turns at fishing into Thomas's tank, while the fat director looked on and told them how to do it. When they caught all the fish, they had a lovely picnic supper of fish and chips. That was good, said the fat director. Please don't surprise us like this again, okay? I won't, sir, said Thomas sadly. Engines don't go fishing. It is too uncomfortable. Oh. The tender engines were lonely when Thomas left to run his branch line. They missed him very much. They had more work to do and had to fetch their own coaches. Needless to say, they were absolutely livid. James even grumbled too. We get no rest, they all complained. But the coaches only laughed. You're lazy and slack, they answered. Altogether, the engines were causing the fat director a great deal of trouble. The big stations at both ends on the line each have a turntable. The fat director had constructed them so that the tender engines can be turned around because it is dangerous for them to go fast and backwards. Tank engines such as myself don't need turntables. They could go just as well backwards as forwards. But to hear Gordon talk, you would have thought the fat director had given him a tender just to show how, unquote, important, unquote, he was. You don't understand, little Thomas. We tender engines have a position to keep up. It doesn't matter where you go, but we are important. And for the fat director to make us shun trucks, fetch coaches, and go on some of those dirty sidings? Well, it's just not the proper thing. I stopped paying attention halfway through that statement, Gordon. Oh, disgraceful, Gordon hissed as he ran toward the turntable. The turntable was in a windy place close to the sea, and if he was not on it just right, he would put it out of balance and made it difficult to turn. Today, Gordon was in a really bad temper, and the wind was blowing fiercely. His driver tried to make him stop in the right place, but Gordon really wasn't trying at all. The fireman tried to turn the handle, but Gordon's weight and the strong wind prevented him. Oh, it's no good, they said at last. Your big tender upsets the balance. If you were a nice tank engine, you'd be all right. Now you'll have to pull the next train backwards, you stupid idiot. Oh, look, there's a new Oh, it's only going back to front. Disappointing. Hello there. Playing tank engines, I see? Sensible engine. Take my advice. Scrap your tender and have a nice bunker. Gordon said nothing. Even James laughed when he saw him. Oh, take care on that turntable. You might stick too. Oh, never fear, you whale, chuckled James. I'm not so fat as you. I mustn't stick, thought James. He stopped on just the right place to balance the table as it can now swing easily. Oh, this I must see. If only I had a bucket of popcorn with me. Ha ha! In your face, Gordon! I knew I could... What the... James began to spin around like a record, baby. Right around, round, 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 round. James spun until he slowed down, and as the turntable stopped, he was about to throw up. Well, are we playing roundabouts? All James could do was roll off to the shed without a word. This stunt proved to be the last straw, because that night, the three engines had an indignation meeting. It's shameful to treat tender engines like this. Henry gets spit on by an elephant, I have to go backwards and people think I'm a tank engine. James spins around like a top and everyone laughs at us. And to add to that, the fat director makes us all shut in dirty sidings. Oh my God! Listen, said Gordon, I know something that will turn the tide. You win? Yeah, I have no choice. Count me in. Me too. Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. The fat director will look silly. This may just be common foreshadowing, but the engines have decided to go on strike. The fat director sat in his office minding his own business. He was listening to the noise outside. The passengers were angry. The station master came in. There's trouble in the shed, sir. Henry's sulking. There's no train, and the passengers are saying this is bad railway. Indeed, said the fat director. We can handle all that. He found the three tender engines looking very cross. Come along, Henry. It's time your train was ready. Henry's not going anywhere, said Gordon. We won't shunt like common tank engines. That was Thomas's job. We are important tender engines. You fetch our coaches and we will pull them. Furthermore, tender engines don't shunt. Oh, indeed, said the fat director. We'll see about that. Engines on my railway do as they're told. Tender engines do shunt, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. Just watch me, bro. Yard has never been the same since Thomas left to run his branch line. Edward was doing his sport. Shunting. Oh, leave those trucks, please, Edward, said the fat director. I just want you to push coaches from in the yard. Oh, thank you, sir. That will be a nice change. That's a good engine. I owe you big time. Off you go, then. And so, Edward found coaches for the three engines, and that day, the trains ran as usual. Despite the heavy delay, which could have been avoided entirely, but whatever, that's life, I guess. Next morning, Edward looked unhappy. Gordon came clanking past, hissing rudely. Chew on this, traitor! Bless me, said the fat director. What a noise! They all hiss me, sir, answered Edward. They say tender engines don't shunt, and last night they said I have gray wheels. I haven't, have I, sir? Well, Edward, you have nice blue ones, and I'm proud of you. Tender engines do shunt, and I thank you for supporting my statement. All the same, we do need another tank engine around here. He went to the workshop, and they showed him all sorts of engines, which is just the main cast covered in tarp. Several disappointed engines later, he saw a smart green one with 4 wheels. Oh, that's the one, he thought. If I choose you, will you work hard? Oh, sir, yes, sir. That's a good engine. I'm gonna name you Percy. Yay! Thank you, sir, said Percy. And the fat director brought him back to the yard. Hello, Edward. Here's Percy, said the fat director. Will you show him everything? Percy soon learned what he had to do, and they had a happy afternoon. Then Henry came by hissing as usual. Sheesh! Henry jumped and ran back to the shed. How beautifully you wheezed him, laughed Edward. I can't wheeze like that. Oh, said Percy, that's nothing. You should hear them in the workshop. You have to wheeze loudly to make yourself heard. Next morning, Thomas arrived. Hello there. I see you stole my whistle in the earlier scene. I expect the fat director wants us to help him with something. Shh. Here he comes, replied Edward. Well done, Thomas. You've been quick. Listen, Henry, Gordon, and James are sulking. They say they won't shut like common tank engines. And so, I have shut them up, and I want you both to run the line for a while. Common tank engines indeed, eh? We'll show them. And Percy will help too. Oh, sir, yes, sir, please, sir, answered Percy. Edward and Thomas worked the main line, greeting each other as they passed by. Percy puffed along the branch line. Thomas was anxious about any Clarabelle, but both driver and guard promised to take care of him. In a good way. Of course there were fewer trains, but the passengers really didn't mind this at all. They knew the three other engines were having a lesson. Gordon, James, and Henry were cold, lonely, and miserable. They wished now they hadn't been so goddamn stupid. Henry, James, and Gordon were miserable. They had been shut up for God knows how long because of their stupid strike incident and longed to be let out again. At last, the fat director arrived. I definitely hope you're sorry, he said, and understand that you're not so goddamn important after all. We have a new tank engine called Percy who helps pull rolling stock, and Thomas and Edward had worked the main line nicely. But I'll let you out now if you promise to behave and be good. Yes, sir, said the three engines. We will. That's right. But please remember that this no shunting nonsense has got to stop. Okie dokie. He then told Percy, Edward, and Thomas that they could go play on the branch for a few days, and they ran off happily to find Annie and Clarabelle at the junction. The two coaches were so pleased to see Thomas again. Edward and Percy were just wrestling with the trucks as usual. Stop! 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 Screamed the trucks as they were pushed into their proper sidings, but the two engines laughed and went on shunting until the trucks were totally ranged. Next, Edward took some empty trucks to the quarry. Percy was left alone. He didn't mind that a bit. He liked watching trains being cheeky to the other engines. Hurry, 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 he would call, and they got pissed off. After a great deal of shunting, Percy was waiting for the signalman to set the points so that he could get back to the yard. He was very eager to work, but was being rather careless and not paying attention. Edward warned Percy, "Be careful on the main line. Whistle to the signalman if you are there." But Percy didn't remember to whistle, so the busy signalman didn't give a shit. Percy waited and waited. The points were still against him, so he couldn't move. Well, in theory he could, but he could bump into something. Speaking of which, he looked along the main line. Beep, beep! He whistled in horror, for rushing straight towards him was Gordon with the express. "Oh, get out of my way!" groaned Gordon. Gordon approached Percy, and the big engine came to a frightening halt. Percy opened his eyes. Gordon had stopped with Percy's buffers just a few inches from his own, but Percy had begun to move. "I'm getting the hell out of here," he puffed. He went straight through Edward's station, and he was so frightened that he ran straight up and over Gordon's hill without breaking a sweat. He was diverted onto a random branch line shortly after. He was tired, but he couldn't stop. He had no driver to shut off steam and apply the brakes. "I want to stop, he puffed. Come on, I want to stop. I can't keep going." The man in the signal box saw Percy was in trouble, so kindly set the points. Percy puffed wearily onto a nice empty siding, ending in a big bank of earth. Of course, he was too tired now to care where he went. I want to stop. I have stopped," he puffed thankfully. "Never mind, Percy," said the workman as they dug him out. "You shall have a drink and some coal, and then you'll feel better." Presently, Gordon arrived. "Well done, Percy. You started so quickly that you stopped the nasty accident." "I'm sorry I was cheeky," said Percy. "You were clever to stop." And then Gordon helped Percy out from the bank. They are now great friends. Percy is still cheeky because that's just the way he is. He is that sort of engine. But he's always careful when he goes on the main line. Well, at least I hope so, idiot. Gordon was resting in his siding. Sometimes it's really tired to be such a large and splendid engine. One does have to keep up appearances, so... Beep, 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 beep. Hello, fat face, whistled Henry. What cheek, spluttered Gordon. That Henry's too big for his wheels. Fancy speaking to me like that. Me, who has never had an accident. Are jab whistles and burst safety valves accidents? Asked Percy innocently. Hell no indeed. High spirits might happen to any engine, but to come off the rails like Henry did? Well, I ask you. Is it right? Is it decent? Then it was Henry's turn to take the express. Gordon watched him getting ready. Be careful, Henry. You're not pulling the flying kipper now. Mind you keep on the rails today. Henry went off in a huff, and Gordon yawned and went to sleep. But not for long. Wake up, Gordon, says driver. A special train's coming and we're to pull it. Is it coaches or trucks? Trucks, said his driver. Trucks, muttered Gordon. Pull! Gordon's fire was slow to start, so Edward had to push Gordon to the turntable to get him facing the right way. I will not go! I won't go! I refuse to go! Grumbled Gordon. Don't be silly! Don't be silly! Puffed Edward. At last, Gordon was on the turntable. The movement actually shook his fire, and it was now burning nicely and making steam. Gordon was cross and didn't care what he did. He waited till the table was halfway round. I'll show them, he hissed. He moved slowly forward to jam the table, but he couldn't stop himself and slithered into a ditch. Oh, she hissed. Get me out! Get me out! Not a hope, said his driver and fireman. You're stuck, you silly great engine. Don't you understand that? They telephoned the fat director. So, Gordon didn't want to take the special train and ran into a ditch? What's that you say? Special's waiting? Tell Edward to take it, please. And Gordon? Oh, leave him where he is. We haven't time to bother with him now. We'll get him out later or something. On the other side of the ditch, some little boys were chattering. God, doesn't he look silly? They'll never get him out. They began to sing. Silly old Gordon fell in the ditch, fell in the ditch, fell in the ditch. Silly old Gordon fell in the ditch. Oh, on a Monday morning. Gordon lay in the ditch all day. Oh dear, he thought, I shall never get out. But that evening, they lifted Gordon and made a row of sleepers under his wheels to keep him from the mud. Strong ropes were fastened to his back end, and James and Henry, pulling hard, managed to bring him to safety. At last, Gordon was free. Late that night, Gordon crawled home a sadder and wiser engine. Though the flip side will come to him the very next few days. Do you know what? Asked Percy. What? Grunted Gordon. Do you know what? Silly, said Gordon. Of course I don't know what. If you don't tell me what is. The fat director says that the work in the yard is too heavy for me. He's getting a bigger engine to help me. Rubbish, said James. Any engine could do it. If you worked more and chatted less, this yard would be a sweeter, better, and happier place. Percy went off to fetch some coaches. That stupid old signal, he thought. He was remembering the time he misunderstood a signal and gone backwards instead of forwards. No one listens to me now. They think I'm a silly little engine and order me about. I'll show them. I'll show them. But he didn't know how. By the end of the afternoon, he felt tired and unhappy. He brought some coaches to the station where the fat director was waiting. Hello, Percy, said the fat director. You look tired. Yes, sir. I am, sir. I don't know if I'm standing on my dome or on my wheels. You look the right way up to me, laughed the fat director. Cheer up. The new engine is bigger than you, and you could probably do the work alone. Would you like to help build my new harbor? Thomas and Choby will help. Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The new engine arrived. Hello, what's your name? Asked the fat director. Montague, sir, but I'm usually called Duck. They say I waddle. I don't really, sir, but I like Duck better than Montague. Good. Duck it shall be. Here, Percy. Show Duck around. The two engines went off together. Soon they were very busy. James, Gordon, and Henry watched Duck quietly doing his work. He seems a simple sort of engine. We'll have some fun and order him about. Smoke billowed everywhere. But Percy was cross, and Duck took no notice. Oh, they'll get tired of it soon. Do they tell you to do things, Percy? Yes, they do, answered Percy. Right, said Duck. We'll soon stop that nonsense. He whispered something. We'll do it later. The fat director was looking forward to a happy meal. Suddenly, he heard an extraordinary voice. Whee! Father, he said, and hurried to the yard. Duck and Percy calmly sat on the turntable outside the shed, refusing to let the big engines in. Gordon, James, and Henry were furious. Stop that noise, bawled the fat director. They won't let us in, hissed Gordon. Duck, explain this behavior. Beg pardon, sir, but I'm a Great Western engine. We do our work without fuss. Beg your pardon, sir. Percy and I will be glad if you'd like to form these engines that we only take orders from you. Silence! Snapped the fat director. Percy and Duck, I am pleased with your work today, but not with your behavior tonight. You have caused a disturbance. Gordon, Henry, and James giggled. As for you, thundered the fat director, you've been worse. You made a disturbance. Duck is quite right. This is my railway, and I give the orders. After Percy went away, Duck was left to manage alone. He did so easily. Duck is very proud of being Great Western. He talks endlessly about it, but he works hard too, and makes everything go like clockwork. It was a splendid day. Trucks and coaches behaved well. The passengers even stopped grumbling. But the engines didn't like having to bustle about. There's two ways of doing things, Duck told them. The Great Western way or the wrong way. I consider myself to be Great Western, and don't we know it, they groaned. The engines were glad when a very peculiar visitor came. He purred smoothly towards them. The fat director took his time to introduce him. Here is Diesel. I have agreed to give him a trial. He needs to learn. Please teach him, Duck. Good morning, purred Diesel in an annoyed voice. Pleased to meet you, Duck. Is that James and Henry? Gordon, too? I am delighted to meet such famous engines. The engines were flattered. He has very good manners, they murmured. We are pleased to have him in our yard. Though Duck had his own doubts about this, however. Come on, he said. Diesel purred after him. You're worthy, fat... Sir Topham Hat to you, ordered Duck. Diesel looked hurt. You're worthy, Sir Topham Hat thinks I need to learn. He's mistaken. We Diesels don't need to learn. We know everything. We come to a yard and improve it. We are revolutionary. Oh, said Duck, if you're Revo Thingergummy, perhaps you should collect my trucks while I fetch Gordon's coaches. Diesel, delighted to show off, purred away. When Duck returned, Diesel was trying to take some trucks from a siding. They were old and empty, and they had not been touched for years. Diesel found them hard to move. Pull, push, backwards, forwards. Aye! Oh! The truck groaned. We can't! We won't! Duck watched with interest. Diesel lost patience. He roared and gave a great heave. The truck jerked forwards. Oh! Oh! They screamed. We can't! We won't! Some of their brakes snapped, and the gear jammed in the sleepers. Ho, ho, ho! Chuckled Duck. Diesel recovered and tried to push the trucks back, but they wouldn't move. Duck ran around quietly to collect their other trucks. Thank you for arranging these, Diesel. I must go now. Don't you want this lot? No, thank you. Diesel gulped. And I've taken all this trouble. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked me. Besides, said Duck, you were having so much fun being whatever it is you said. Goodbye. Diesel had to help the workmen clear the mess. He hated it. All of the trucks were laughing and singing at him. Trucks are waiting in the yard. Tackle them with ease. I'll show the world what I can do. Gaily blows the diesel. In and out he creeps about like a big black weasel. When he pulls the wrong trucks out, pop goes the diesel. Growled Diesel and scuttled away to soak in the shed. Diesel, the new engine, was soaking. The trucks would not stop singing rudely at him. They had been singing for hours. Duck was horrified. Shut up, he ordered, and bumped them hard. I'm sorry our trucks were rude to you, Diesel. Diesel was still furious. It's all your fault. You made them laugh at me. Bullshit, said Henry. Duck would never do that. We engines have our differences, but we never talk about them to the trucks. That would be disgraceful, said Gordon. Disgusting, put in James. Despicable, finished Henry. Diesel hated Duck. He wanted him to be sent away, so he made a plan. He was going to tell lies about Duck. Next day, he spoke to the trucks. I see you like jokes. You made a good joke about me yesterday. I laughed and laughed. Duck told me one about Gordon. I'll whisper it. Don't tell Gordon I told you, and he purred away. Ho ho ho! Guffared the trucks. Gordon will be cross with Duck when he knows. Let's tell him and pay Duck out for bumping us. They laughed rudely at the engines as they went by. Soon, Gordon, Henry, and James found exactly what the reason was. Disgraceful, said Gordon. Disgusting, said James. Despicable, finished Henry. We cannot allow it. They consulted together. Yes. We did it to us, and we'll do it to him, and see how he likes it. Duck was tired out. The trucks have been very cheeky and troublesome today. He really wanted a rest in the shed. He went onto the turntable in hopes of having a rest at the shed. However, there was trouble, for the 3 engines barred his way. Whoosh! Keep out. Stop fooling, said Duck. I'm tired. So are we, hissed the engines. We are tired of you. We like Diesel. We don't like you. You tell tales about us to the trucks. I don't. You do. I don't. You do. The fat director came to stop the noise. Duck called me a galloping sausage, spluttered Gordon. Rusty red scrap iron, hissed James. I'm old square wheels, fumed Henry. Well, Duck considered. I only wish, sir, he said gravely, that I thought of those names myself if the dome fits. He made trucks laugh at us, accused the engines. The fat director recovered. He'd been trying not to laugh himself. Well, did you, Duck? Certainly not, sir. No steam engine would be as mean as that. Diesel lurked up. Now, Diesel, you heard what Duck said. I can't understand it, sir. To think that Duck of all engines... I'm dreadfully grieved, sir, but know nothing. I see, said the fat director. Diesel squirmed and hoped he didn't. I'm sorry, Duck, but you must go to Edward's station for a while. I know he will be glad to see you. As you wish, sir. Duck trundled sadly away, while Diesel smirked with triumph. Little did he know, something would bite him on the bottom. Duck, the Great Western engine, puffed sadly to Edward's station. It's not fair, he complained. Diesel has been telling lies about me and made the fat director and all the engines think I'm horrid. Edward smiled. I know you aren't, and so does the fat director. You wait and see. Why don't you help me with these trucks? Duck felt much happier with Edward, and set to work at once. To no one's surprise, the trucks were really silly, heavy, and noisy. The 2 engines had to work hard, and I mean very, very hard. Pushing and pulling all afternoon. They did. At last they reached the top of the hill. Goodbye, whistled Duck, and rolled gently over the crossing to the other line, somehow turning around for some reason. Duck loved coasting down the hill, running easily with the wind whistling past. Suddenly, it was the guard's warning whistle. Hurrah, 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 laughed the trucks. We've broken away, we've broken away. Chase him, bump him, throw him off the rails, they yelled. Hurry, Duck, hurry, said the driver. They raced through Edward Station, but the trucks were catching up. As fast as we can, then they'll catch us gradually. The driver was gaining control. Another clear mile will do it. Oh, glory, look at that! James was just pulling out on their line from the station ahead. Any minute, there could be a high-speed collision. It's up to you now, Duck, cried the driver. Duck put every ounce and weight and steam against the trucks. Oh, it's too late, Duck groaned and shut his eyes. he veered into the yard and entered the siding where a barber had set up shop. He was shaving a customer. There was a sliding, groaning crash, and part of the shed's wall caved in. The silly trucks had knocked their guard off his van and left them far behind after it had whistled a warning. But the trucks didn't give a shit. They were feeling very pleased with themselves. Beg pardon, sir, gasped Duck. Excuse my intrusion. I won't, said the barber. You front my customers. I'll teach you. And he lathered Duck's face all over with shaving cream. Poor Duck. Thomas was helping to pull the trucks away when the fat director arrived. What's going on over here? I do not like engines popping through my walls, fumed the barber. I appreciate your feelings, said the fat director, but you must know that this engine and his crew have prevented a serious accident. It was a very close shave. Oh, said the barber. Oh, excuse me. He filled the basin of water to wash Duck's face. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were being a brave engine. That's all right, sir. I didn't know that either. You're very brave indeed, said the fat director. I'm proud of you. The fat director watched the rescue operation. Then, he had more news for Duck. And when you are properly washed and mended, you are coming home. Home, sir? Do you mean the yard? Of course. But, sir, they don't like me. They like Diesel. Not now. I never believed Diesel, so I sent him packing. The engines realized this cock-up and are very sorry and want you back. A few days later, when he came home, there was a really outstanding, rousing welcome for Duck the Great Western Engine. Apologies were made. Some accepted. Duck couldn't be any prouder than being the 8 famous engines' caboose. If someday you should see Thomas the Tank Engine puffing happily along the line, he may be on his way to a village nestled in after the top station of his branch line. One December morning, Thomas whistled to all his friends at the village station. It's nearly Christmas, and I'll bring you lots of letters and parcels. But a week later, everything changed. The island was covered with thick snow. The engines found work notoriously difficult. Some had to help clear snow from the track, and workmen hacked away at the frozen banks of ice. Thomas and Percy were collecting important posts for Christmas. Heh, driver said there's a lot of posts for the village, said Thomas. I'll need an extra truck for it all. Percy was feeling left out. It's not fair! You're not leaving any posts for me! But Percy's chance had come. There's been a change of plans, said Thomas's driver. The fat director needs us at the big station. Percy, you are to take Thomas's train to the village. Percy was delighted, but Thomas was sad. God damn it! I won't be able to say happy holidays to all my friends. Don't worry, said Percy, kindly. I'll do it for you. It's just not the same, sighed Thomas. Percy was making good time on his way to the village, when suddenly... What is that? Called his driver. There ahead was a fogman by the line. He was holding a red light. The village is cut off by snow, he shouted. We need snowplows, workmen, and a helicopter. Leave your trucks in the siding and go back quickly. Percy was soon steaming to Harold's airfield. Beep, 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 whistled Percy. Wake up, lazy wings! The villagers need your help. They're stranded. Whizzo, replied Harold. I'd like an emergency to keep me warm. And he buzzed away. Now, what's next? Suddenly, there was Thomas with Terence the tractor and a works coach. Come on, Percy, whistled Thomas. Follow me. The two engines battled their way through the snow. At last, they reached the village station. Harold was already there, busily dropping food and other shit to people and animals below. Terrence quickly got to work in the meantime. Lovely stuff, he said as he pushed the snow aside. It took a while, but soon the roads were clear and Terrence and the engines managed to reach top station. Well done, Percy. Well done, Thomas, cheered the villagers. You're the best Father Christmas this village has ever had. What's a Father Christmas? Asked Percy. Father Christmas is someone who drops presents down at chimneys at Christmas time. Percy looked at his funnel. I wonder if... No! Chimneys, Percy, not funnels. Which reminds me, your post train is still back at the siding, isn't it? Percy hurried back to fetch it. Just then, Toby arrived with Henrietta. We bought lots of hot drinks and food for the villagers, he whistled. That night, all the engines had gone back to their sheds except Toby. The villagers had made a plan to thank the engines. They loaded paint pots and parcels into Henrietta, then they set off through the moonlit countryside. The engines were fast asleep in the sheds as Toby ran silently into the yard. He had no idea what the villagers were going to do, but he knew it was going to be a big surprise. When the engines woke the next morning, they could not believe their eyes. The sheds were repainted and decorated. Parcels lay everywhere. The engines whistled in delight, and everyone agreed that it was a really happy Christmas. If someday you should see Thomas the Tank Engine puffing happily along the line, he may be on his way to a village nestled in after the top station of his branch line. One November morning, Thomas whistled to all his friends at the village station. It's nearly Thanksgiving, and I'll bring you lots of letters and parcels. But then, just like magic, an early snowstorm came. The island was covered with thick snow. The engines found work notoriously difficult. Some had to help clear snow from the track, and workmen hacked away at the frozen banks of ice. Thomas and Percy were collecting important mail for Thanksgiving. Heh, driver says there's lots of mail for the village, said Thomas. I'll need an extra car for it all. Percy was feeling left out. It's not fair. You're not leaving any mail for me. But Percy's chance had come. There's been a change of plans, said Thomas's driver. Sir Topham Hatt needs us at the big station. Percy, you are to take Thomas's train to the village. Percy was delighted, but Thomas was sad. Damn! I won't be able to say Happy Thanksgiving to all my friends. Don't worry, said Percy kindly. I'll do it for you. It's just not the same, sighed Thomas. Percy was making good time on his way to the village when suddenly... What's that? Called his driver. There ahead was a fogman by the line. He was holding a red light. The village is cut off by snow, he shouted. We need snow plows, workmen, and a helicopter. Leave your trucks in the siding and go back quickly. Percy was soon steaming to Harold's airfield. Beep, beep, whistled Percy. Come on! Wake up, lazy wings! The mountain villagers need your help! What's stranded? Challenge accepted, replied Harold. I like an emergency to keep me warm. And he buzzed away. Right. What's next? Suddenly, there was Thomas with Terrence the tractor in the works train. Come on, Percy, whistled Thomas. Follow me. The two engines battled their way through the snow. At last, they reached the village. Harold was already there, busily dropping food and other shit for Thanksgiving dinner to the people below. Terrence quickly got to work. Ha! Lovely stuff, said Terrence, as he pushed the snow aside. Well done, Percy! Well done, Thomas! "You're the greatest turkey we have ever seen." "What's a turkey?" said Percy. "A turkey is the main course of Thanksgiving dinner," said Thomas. Percy looked at his funnel. "I wonder if we'll be able to watch the Thanksgiving Day parade," said Percy. "Though I don't know about that," said Thomas. "Which reminds me, your mail train's back at the siding, isn't it?" Percy hurried back to fetch it. Just then, Toby arrived with Henrietta. "We bought lots of hot drinks and food for the villagers," he whistled. That night, all the engines had gone back to the sheds, except for Toby. The villagers had made a plan to thank the engines. They loaded paint pots and parcels into Henrietta, and they set off through the moonlit countryside. All the engines were fast asleep in the sheds as Toby ran silently into the yard. He had no idea what the villagers were going to do, but he knew it was going to be a big surprise. And when the engines woke the next morning, they could not believe their eyes. The sheds had been repainted and decorated. The engines whistled in delight, and everyone agreed it was the greatest Thanksgiving of their lives. In summer, the island of Sodor gleams in the sun, and every station is filled with flowers. Percy had been shunting fish vans at the harbor all day, and was tired of the smell of the fish. "Phew! Come on, Percy," says driver. "Time to go home." "Please, sir, can I have a wash done first?" "Sorry, Percy, there isn't time. The fat director is waiting for us at the sheds." "There is to be a festival of flowers," announced the fat director. "This sign saying Best Dressed Station will be awarded to the winner. Please help with the arrangements." The engines were excited. "My favorite station is Farker," said Thomas. "Mine's Marthwaite," said Toby. "Percy, what's yours?" "Oh, the harbor," he murmured. "Huh!" snuffed Thomas. "We can tell." Toby laughed. "The harbor's full of fish, not flowers." "All right, then. Ours they'll end," said Percy. "That's my home," replied Toby. "That's why I like it. Especially when you're there, and I'm not here saying I'm silly. Good night." Next morning, Percy was proud to be sparkling again. His traded trucks were being loaded up with vegetables and flowers. "These are for Marthwaite," said his driver. "They'll display them on the platform." On the way, Percy saw Harold. "Why is Harold buzzing about, he puffed? I haven't time for a raise today." "Egads, what's that?" said his driver. "Oh, why, bless me, it's a ram." "Oh, now we'll be late. I should have known that Harold was trying to tell us something." "I got just a ticket to get him off the track," cried the fireman. "Food!" He found some cabbage leaves, and the ram chomped happily away. "Please! Beep, beep! Can we go now?" The ram moved, and Percy was on his way. When he arrived at the station, his driver told the station master what happened. "I heard about this ram. He's always hungry." A little while later, the station was decked with flowers. "Marthwaite will definitely win first prize," decided Percy. He left his coaches and went to a siding where no one can see him. "What the hell was that?" said his driver. Percy was shocked. Flowers, fruit, and vegetables were scattered everywhere. "It's that ram. He's made a meal of the station, too." And then there was trouble. "We can't get in the waiting room," the passengers cried. "Why not?" asked the station master. "The ram won't let us." Everyone looked at the ram, and the ram looked at them. "Egads, he's not alone," exclaimed Percy's driver. "Let us out, please," begged the boys. "We're very sorry." "Why, look at that," said the station master. "The boys are our culprits, not the ram. He's just making sure they did no more damage." We thought it'd be fun, but it wasn't. We'll help put everything back. A few days later, the Fat Director invited some of his engines to Marthwaite, the winner of the Best Dressed Station Award. I'm sorry, Toby, whispered Percy. You made the right choice. And then the Fat Director made an announcement. There is one more prize for our good friend the Ram. Here it is, a big pumpkin. I'll eat my hat if you don't like it. And then Harold landed. The wind from his blades flew the Fat Director's hat off, and as if on cue, the Ram began eating the hat. Well, said the Fat Director, seems I wouldn't be able to eat my hat even if I had to. Everyone laughed, and the only sound from the Ram was a contented hiccup.